Well, here we are. It is Friday again. It's June 27th, 2025. And this is the weekly newsletter video. We do these each Friday. We take a look at the auction market over the last week. We take a look ahead at what's coming up in auctions around the United States and sometimes in Europe, of course, and over in Asia. And just sort of keep track of things, what the prices are on primarily Asian art, but also we touch on Western decorative art and so forth, because I know a lot of you collect more than just Chinese. You have a house full of furniture, probably some of you, and you have antique American furniture and European furniture and decorative accessories and so forth. So this is just part of it. All right. This past week, I want to say at the onset here is many of you who've been watching over the years, you know that in July and August, the auction markets, other than New England and on-site sales and country sales and that sort of thing, and they have good things that turn up in them, especially here in New England and along the eastern coast of the United States. There aren't a lot of auctions between now and September. You won't see a lot. If you take a look at Christie's or Sotheby's or Bonhams, you'll just see a handful of auctions for the month of July and for August. Because they take a lot of time off. And for some reason, I don't know how this tradition got started, but that's the way it's been for years. There will be lots of Asian sales coming up in September, the fall series, Asia Week, and all that, and we'll pay attention to that when it comes. But right now, it was a little quiet, but there have been some good sales. And now is a good time of the year to buy because fewer and fewer people are looking. It's like looking at auctions between Thanksgiving and Christmas. People often have other things to think about. They've got family events and so forth. And in the summer, July and August, people go on vacation and they don't watch the auction market, I can tell you from personal experience, as closely as they do the rest of the year. They just don't because there isn't as much. It takes longer to find things that are interesting, and because there are just fewer auctions, I guess is what it amounts to. So, at any rate, we'll see what we can turn up over the next couple of months as we head into July. 4th of July is just next week, of course, and I hope all of you have plans, cookouts, or something you want to do. Around here, it turns into a madhouse. If I can this year, I've never done it in the past, but if I can, I might shoot some video of what goes on in our neighborhood around the 4th of July because we live on a very quiet dead end street that ends at the ocean, and there's no through traffic, but the neighborhood on the 4th fills up with cars, so to the point where you'd think they were giving away money somewhere on the street because there's so many cookouts and so many people go to the beaches and go down to the cove, and they have parades and just in the community, not in the city of Gloucester. They have a parade in Gloucester, but they also have Lanesville, where we live, have their own parades. And it's a little tiny community. There's just a couple of thousand people here, but somehow every year they put together a big deal, and then there's a bonfire, a massive bonfire, which they tried to stop a number of years ago, and because it got so big. One year, I guess I remember 10 or 12,000 people showed up for the bonfire. And they had one fire truck there with two firemen and one policeman to handle the crowd, and everybody was well behaved. There was some a little bit of wild stuff among some of the teenagers and stuff, but it was nothing serious. But the bonfire is about 70 feet high. It's a big one, and they build it out of pallets, and they lit it. And the city at one point said, "You can't do that anymore. We're going to end the bonfire." So everybody sort of quietly stepped away for a couple of years. Then it came right back, and they've done it before, and it'll regrow itself as it always does. But and we have fireworks. Local families scoot up to New Hampshire and pick up trunk loads of fireworks because they're not legal in Massachusetts for some reason, and they bring them down and they have a big fireworks display on the beach, all privately taken care of. So it's kind of fun, real community. Any rate, that's what's going on now for the antique business. We'll get back to that. That was just an aside. Freeman Hindman had their sale yesterday, as many of you know. I know a lot of you were participating in it and sending in questionnaires and asking for condition reports and one thing and another. Now, I've heard from a bunch of you through the Identification Assistance Service and over on the Patreon page. We covered it a bit more with some additional videos over there, and it was an interesting sale. And I think the results overall were very good. I was very happy to see the results in this sale because this isn't one of their big sales. This is one of their sort of end of the season, off season sales where they have things that are in the more buyable range for the average collector, not the billionaire in Hong Kong and Paris and London who only buy imperial pieces and all that stuff, but people I consider to be the sort of the backbone of the collecting community, people who are genuinely interested. They're not necessarily dealers speculating on things to resell. They're buying things that they like and love and so forth. And as I went through the results last evening, everything turned out quite well. And I'm going to go through some of the prices, and I'm going to sort of go over the prices of some of the things that we had discussed in the pre-sale video, just to see how we did, how the prices were. And some of you will remember the video and see how we did on the estimates, and there'll be some surprises, of course. But let's take a look. One of the plates that sold in the sale was this. Now, this is a well-known type of Sung, the early Yuan dynasty celadon from the Lung Quan kilns. These twin fish designs. They're known as double fish. And everybody likes these. Everybody wants to own one. The problem is, of course, that there are a lot of copies of these on the market. This isn't a copy. This was a real one. Unfortunately, the ones they tend to copy are the rarest ones, the most, of course, the ones that sell for the most money. But they're also easy to spot. And this one has got a very nice color to it. The fish are nicely glazed. The back of it is that pretty classical flat foot that you do see on ceramics, and the way the ribbing runs around the outside all look very good. It was a perfectly good plate, and it sold for what it was worth. It sold for $3,250 against a $1,500 to $2,000 estimate. Freeman Hindman doesn't tend to be terribly aggressive on estimates because they want people to participate, and they want them to know that the estimates and the reserves are low, if there are any reserves at all. And generally speaking, I think their reserves ride somewhere around half the price of the low estimate, which is a very common model among auction houses that use it. I think Skinner's Boston used it for years that way. Many auction houses do. Half the low estimate is the reserve, if there is one. Some auction houses, the big auction houses, allow you to put a reserve right up against the low estimate. And some auction houses have the low estimate as the reserve. That's becoming increasingly popular over in Europe for some reason, and so forth. But at any rate, this plate did fine. It brought $3,250, which was a good firm price, plus the buyer's premium, of course, which was, I think, 28% at Freeman's 30. It's 33%. Excuse me. So this ended up going for about $4,300 US. All right, and then hopping along over to this. Now, this was a lot that it doesn't surprise me. It brought a lot more than the estimate. The estimate on this was, it was 2 Kangxi vases, including a yen vase, and there was some edge roughness to the rims and so forth. But when we talked about these a few weeks ago, I thought, gee, if they go for anywhere close to the estimate, they're a bargain, because a lot of collectors don't mind a little roughness on the edges of Kangxi pieces because it's so expected. You just expect to see it on there. But the vase on the left looked quite good exterior-wise. I got to refresh my memory to see if they were drilled or anything. Yeah, one of them was. The yen vase had been drilled on the bottom, and the other one hadn't been. And the one on the left was a dandy vase. Whoops, I don't know what that's from. Hold on. There we go. The one on the left was beautifully done, and the yen vase was very attractive too. And these were good-sized pots, as you know. They were 17. The height of the tallest one was 17 inches, so the one on the left is 17 inches. But the estimate was very low, $1,000 to $1,500, and they ended up selling for $9,500 plus the premium around $12,000. And these came from the Hallam Time and Glass Museum in Evanston, Illinois. And the lot was located in Chicago. That makes complete sense. But at any rate, it shows that estimates don't really mean a heck of a lot. It mostly transmits to the experienced buyer that the estimate is very low, and you need to do your own homework to figure out what it's really worth. And all of you that collect porcelain and have been doing it for any length of time probably knew right away that these 2 vases weren't going to sell for $1,500 plus premium. They were going to do very well, and they did. They ended up selling for $9,500 plus the premium, so around $12,000. And then there was this. We talked about these. I just thought these were so pretty. These were really pretty, and it was a pair of Kangxi dishes. They measured 10 3/4 inches, almost 11 inches wide each. But beautiful design. The decorations on these were really, really exceptional. The shadings of the cobalt was very, very good. The precision of the drawing by the decorator was very good. Um, Really nice. And if you pull the pictures in and you take a good look at the details, the elements, how carefully it was outlined and then filled in with a very nice, rich sapphire blue cobalt. That's what sold these, I believe. And it's a pair. And it's a pair. And the chrysanthemum in the middle was just beautiful on both of them. And then they have these sort of archaistic, almost like octopus leg vines coming off of them. Very, very pretty. And it was estimated. The estimate I thought was very reasonable, and I think we talked about the estimate. I said that's a perfectly reasonable estimate, and obviously some people really liked them. Somebody couldn't let go, and they ended up selling for $2,750 plus premium, so around 3,700, 3,800 dollars, somewhere around there. But awfully nice, awfully pretty, very real sweet examples. And that the Kangxi buyers recognized them immediately. And then there was this. Now, these I think were very good buy, especially if you're a dealer. We had talked about these. There were 3 lots of these plates with a lot of them had the famous aster pattern on them. And somebody bought in this lot. This was a good buy. Arita jars and 8 assorted dishes, Kangxi, all Kangxi period. And here, this nice lot. And you know, in my mind, the Lotus Bowl over here on the left, it was a good. I didn't get the condition report, but each one of these bowls, you know, could bring $600 to $800, $900, and somebody bought the whole lot for about $1,300, including the premium. I believe it was, right? Yeah, 1,000 plus premium. So about $1,300 bought the whole lot. And if you're a dealer and you bought these, you're going to be able to make a profit on these and maybe add to your own collection with the piece that you maybe. So often dealers will buy a lot like this because there's one piece they want for themselves to add to their own collection. Because if you're really a dealer and you don't collect, you're never going to be a good dealer. It's as simple as that. People who are in the I run into this fairly often. This is just a little aside. I run into people in the antique business all the time, and they buy and sell antiques. And occasionally, you know, that they have you come over to their house for a drink or to have some dinner and things. And occasionally, I'm absolutely dumbstruck by the lack of antiques in the homes of antique dealers. It's really, really a strange thing. You expect to see some interesting things they picked up that are of their own taste, just so they like what they're doing, and a lot of dealers don't. And most of them are nice people, but they never develop a real strong following because they never develop a personal passion for the stuff that they can convey to a potential buyer. And if you don't have that pleasure, you don't get that joy out of it. I think you're really, really missing the boat. You should, antiques are, they're good for dealers. It's a good business to be in because you can buy with some arbitrage, get a good buy somewhere, sell it somewhere else, obviously. But there are a lot of people that I think a lot of people are buying antiques these days, especially Chinese things and there are some other arts, as an investment of some kind. And as I've said many, many times, if you want to invest, put it in the S&P. I think, by the way, I think the S&P is now higher than it was before they started talking all about all the tariffs. It was a little while ago today. It was higher yesterday too, I think. It's completely recovered and is getting ready to explode, I suspect, in the next few months. So if you got any extra cash, throw it in the S&P or a NASDAQ fund. See how you do. All right. It's fun to watch. All right. But anyway, these were very beautiful plates. And there's obviously a profit in them because you could probably sell each one of these plates for $300 or $400 a piece, plus the jar, plus the pot over here. It seems to be missing its lid, but it's a very nice big one. And then a molded bowl, and then an aster pattern leaf bowl here. All right, and then moving along over to this, the Kangxi period incense burner with the twin dragons on it. This was a nice looking example. Hold on a second. Why isn't this cooperating? There we go. Beautifully done. It appears to be, I think it was in pretty good shape, wasn't it? There's the bottom of it. Yeah, it looked fine. And I think somebody I think this was a very good buy. I thought the estimate was low. Over the years, we've had this almost identical incense burner, or very similar in this shape. And 9 or 10 years ago, we were selling these even on eBay. You'd sell them for between $3,500 and $5,000 or $6,000 even, if the color was particularly good. And this one sold for just 2,250 plus premium, or around 2,800. So it was a little bit on the soft side. I thought it would do better than that. I thought it would bring maybe upwards around 4,000, 4,500. But there you go. And it was fairly decent size, as I remember. Yeah, it was 10 inches in diameter. This wasn't a, a 5 or 6 inch incense burner. This was a 10-inch one. It was good size, nice presentation size. And then over to this, we had talked about this a couple of times because I just thought this was such a nice lot. I love this lot. You have a pair of enameled Kangxi shaped rim under saucers and bowls, and this very nice blue and white reticulated double wall cup over here. And last week we talked about them. I think it was on the Patreon. Maybe we talked about it over here too. But there was a very similar cup that sold at Rob Michaels. That was, I don't think it was quite as, it was a very good one. There was nothing wrong with it. I don't think it was as good as this one, and that sold for about $1,800 at the Michaels sale. And this cup was in this auction paired with two other pairs of things. And I thought, well, you got $2,000 for the cup, and those saucers and under trays are going to be worth another couple of thousand each. And that was my thinking on it, because the estimate was very reasonable. It came from this Rittenhouse Square collection, and it was only estimated at $900 to $1,200. And we talked about this auction a few weeks ago in the preview. And I said, just forget the estimates if you want to get an accurate idea of what these will bring. And I thought 4,000 or 5,000. Well, they went over that. They brought 5,500 plus the premium, so you're up around $7,000. But they were beautiful. They were very fine quality, great color, perfectly potted, and rare. All five of these pieces are rare, so that pushed the price considerably. And as I said, they bought 55 plus premium, around a little over $7,000. And then there was the swirl vase. We've been watching this because I was really curious to see how it would do. These do not turn up very often. There've been that pair that have been up a couple of times at Rob Michaels, and didn't get paid for a couple of times for some reason. But those brought around 15,000 last week. And this, I think, is a better bottle. I think the color is better, or at least the photography is better. Maybe that was the photography, but the color on this bottle seemed particularly rich, very well done. Now, it was a single, not a pair, obviously, but I thought the estimate was very low, and we talked about it and thought, well, 4,000 or 5,000 should bring. And that's what the hammer price was, $4,750 plus the premium. So the full price all in ended up probably a little over $6,000, which is in line with what the prices were over in Bruges. The ones in Bruges brought about two and a half times the amount of a single. So that sort of goes in line with the old equation that pairs are usually worth, 2.5, 3 times what a single is worth. And this was a nice vase, though. It was about 13 inches tall, very good color. And then there was this really fine, probably Yongshen. I don't know, did they date it? They just said 18th century. They look Yongshen to me, or very early Qianlong, but a beautiful cup and saucer set. Wonderful quality, very fine, and lots of detail, very fine detail. But the way the flowers look and so forth, it looks Yongshen to me. The way that the woman and the child are drawn, and I love the cat they threw in the foreground. In case you missed it, there's a cat there. It's a nice thing, and this did fine. It brought 3,250, and it came from the Garland and J.P. Morgan collection originally. And those are the Garlands and the Morgans were huge turn of the last century collectors up into the 1920s. And this went for $3,250 plus the buyer's premium, or around $4,200 all in and paid for. But a very fine looking cup and saucer. And then over to the punch bowl. We talked about this because it reminded me very much of these sort of pseudo tobacco leaf bowls that you see around. But I thought this was pretty splendid looking punch bowl. A wonderful detail. It looked like it was in nice condition. I thought the birds were terrific. The flowers were all large and very energetic. And it was measured 16 and a quarter inches in diameter. So it was a pretty big punch bowl. Once you get bowls over 14 inches, you're getting into expensive punch bowls. And this one was 16 plus. So it ended up going for $3,750 plus premium, or around $4,200, which was a perfectly fair price. I think it was absolutely worth it. Again, the estimate was only 1,500 to 2,000, and I would have been shocked if it sold for that estimate. But it's just their way of, now that the reserve on the bowl was $750, and it went way over what the reserve was. If it had a reserve at all, it may not have had a reserve too. You don't always know. So there you are. And then this didn't sell. And I was kind of surprised by that. I thought they only had a starting price of $400. It's a very nice, it appears to be a late 18th, early 19th century seal of this phoenix carved into a black stone. It's just a nice object. But it's not the kind of thing, though, that a lot of people, people that are speculating and in quote, investing in antiques tend to pay much attention to, because they're very hard to research. And whenever you have anything that's really, really attractive that you personally like, try to look up and find a comp. And if you can't find a comp for it, well, it means one of two things. Either it's a reproduction, or it's just an interesting object that they didn't make a lot of. And this is an interesting object they didn't make a lot of, and it didn't sell for some reason. And if you like it, and you like seals, and there's the seal on the bottom, you might want to contact Ben and at Freeman's and see if it's available post sale. It may be. I heard from a fellow this week that bought a bunch of things in the was it the Marquis de Santos? Who was it? Was it Marquis de Santos? Sale in Portugal that just finished up a couple of weeks ago, and there were three or four. There were several Kung Shi lots that didn't sell, and he was able to buy a pair of very nice plates for $200 that had been estimated at $600 to $800, and a Kang Shi dish that had been estimated at $750 to $1,000 for about $400. You can get some real. And the point is, he got a hold of me through the identification service to see if I thought they looked okay. I said they were perfectly fine. You just got a great buy. And you can get some terrific buys post-sale sometimes if you're paying attention. And just because something doesn't sell doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong with it. You have to be certain that there's nothing wrong with it. But if you're at that level where you can tell the difference, reach out to the auctioneer and ask him. Send him a note through Live Auctioneers and say, is this available post-sale? I'm interested in acquiring it. Because very often people are selling off collections. They may have an item, maybe have 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 items in an auction. And at the end of the auction, they're very satisfied overall. They had a couple of strays that didn't sell. Guess what? They're not going to want them back. They're going to say, no, I don't want to ship them and go through all that again. We've got to finish up the collection or the estate or whatever it's going on. And they'll say, if the guy wants to buy them, you come up with a price with them. And the auction house, of course, wants to sell them because they put work into it and they need to get a return on their time and investment, because that's time is money. So occasionally, and not infrequently, I've gotten some great buys post sale over the years. Phenomenal. And it's just because the auction house wants it gone. The owner doesn't want it back for any number of reasons. And they let you have it. And sometimes you're shocked by the price they quote you back if you're interested in seriously buying them, because they're going to give you an offer low enough that you'll say yes on the first try. They don't want to play around with it. So auction houses tend to be very much to the point on things like that. So don't be afraid to try it. All right, and then this was in the bottom sale. This very nice Celadon glazed. That was it for the Freeman sale. The Freeman sale, I think, overall was good. There are a couple of more things I want to talk about real quickly. Hold on. There was this. Now, this was a great buy. This was at the Freeman sale. It was this very nice 16th or maybe early 17th century Japanese painting. The scenery, the way it's set up, it reminds a lot of people of the Tale of Gunji series, which, of course, this isn't it, but the way the woman, the kneeling woman is seated. And this is a very nicely framed painting. scroll painting. Very, very nice and early. This is an early picture, and it didn't sell. Again, I think it's lovely. It's got a great atmosphere to it. It's got warm tones. It was estimated at 1,500 to. This did sell. Excuse me. This is one that did sell, but it sold for a bargain. I think this was very cheap. I think this was an absolute bargain. This was the one that did sell. Yeah, $900 plus premium. A great looking picture. I think it was terrific. I have a number of paintings that look like this, and I always very attracted to them. And if you know about no masks, you can look at the different styles of no masks and pay attention to how the hair is done. And sometimes you can find out what character she might have been in a Japanese play. Sort of a fun thing to do. It's a little game you can play. And then over to this. This was very nice. This was a Kasugo Toro granite stone garden lantern, but this was a particularly big one. This one was over 5 feet tall, almost 5 feet 5 feet 7 inches, so a little over 5.5 feet tall. But it was a really nice lantern. I love these things. There are a lot of copies of them around, but this was a real one. And what they did was interesting. They showed it and it disassembled, probably to encourage people to not be afraid to buy it, because if it comes apart, it's a lot easier to ship. They all come apart. They always come apart. But some people don't realize that. And this is it. And all the elements looked like they were in good shape. It had a wonderful surface on it and did well. It brought 5,500, way over the estimate. These always sell. The good ones always sell for well over several thousand, $2,000 or $3,000. This one ended up going for about 7,000 with the premium, and hopefully somebody will put it back in a garden somewhere. Because they really look lovely, with a bed of pachysandra and flowers coming up around it underneath the can. The setting here for it was, pretty perfect looking to me. I liked it a great deal. And then this was that Japanese Arita charger, the Shishi charger, they called it, Edo to early Meiji period. But it was a fairly big one. 25 inches in diameter. This was a big piece of porcelain. This is a very, very big piece of porcelain. But I thought the curvilinear style of decoration of the shishis, of the fus on it, were just charming. I thought this was a very, very charming piece of porcelain. And I believe it was marked on the back. Yeah, it's got the Chenhua mark, as so many of them do. Now, it has a felt strip on the foot, so I think this spent its life on a dining table or a sideboard or something. That wasn't damaged. So somebody asked me if that was damage to the foot. And I said, no. They just put felt on there in case there's any kiln grit or anything on the unglazed porcelain, that it wouldn't scratch tabletops. But anyway, that was a heck of a nice thing. So with the premium, went for $1,300. And then another huge plate, and this is an early one, early 18th century example. And this one was also 22 inches in diameter. Wonderful bit of Amari. Now this pattern, when you see it, people often see this in this pattern, and they always say, "Oh, it's a Meiji period." No, when the originals of these, with that very, very dark, almost black cobalt. The blue on this is very, very dark, very, very thick. They did them early in the 18th century in this style, the originals, and then they went through a revival toward the end of the Edo period into the Meiji period, and that's when you see a lot of them. That's where 99% of them come from. But this was one of the originals. You'll notice the paste has a slightly tannish tone to it. It's white, but it's just got a little bit of a color to it. Which was very typical of these, and you see it on vases all the time. But this was a beautiful example. The gilding was in good shape. You notice the flowers in the center. There's not any wear to it. The flowers around the rim, the gilding is all there. So you know that the enamels are going to be in good shape if the gilding is all in good shape, because the gilding is the first to go, as I always say. And there's the back of it with that sort of fungus mark that they used back then, and the wide double circle around the outside. Again, always when you see that blue line or single blue line, or in the old days, the early ones, they did use a double blue line very close to the foot rim. Always understand that that's a Japanese piece. The Chinese examples, if they had double circles, it was always toward the center, but the Japanese would spread it way out toward the rim. And this was a heck of a nice thing, and it did very well. It ended up selling for 2,670 dollars, including the buyer's premium, which is a very good price. But it was a massive piece of Japanese amari. This was a really, really, really big piece. All right, so that sort of wrapped that sale up, but it was a good auction, and it's the kind of sale that many of us pay attention to because you can have some fun, get something nice, and not necessarily break the bank doing so. So there you go. All right, and then a few other things that sold in the last day. This literally just sold this morning. This was that very nice uh, China trade gilt lacquer tea caddy with the shaped exterior and lid and everything. This was a nice caddy. I think it was set up as a sewing box or as a glove box at some point. Looks like they put a okay. This was set up to be a glove box. It appears. Often they are also tea caddies, and there's yeah. This was made as a glove and handkerchief box. It appears. It's got this nice little edge that looks original to it, and then it had the fitted little drawer on it. And they would make these boxes. When they made them, they would often make them, and then they would decide what purpose they would serve later. But this was a nice one. He called it a jewelry box. That's how they describe it, which is a common description. I never thought of them as being jewelry boxes, but that's just me. Anyway, it had its original wooden feet, nice looking box, and it sold right where it should have. It sold for $650 plus premium. And the premium at Thomaston Place is 25%. Not many auction houses are under 25% nowadays. I noticed Stair Gallery just went to 36%. Not long. I didn't notice that they changed it. I don't know when they did it exactly, but that's getting a little steep. That's pushing the edge. So be sure to calculate whenever you have buyer's premiums. Always calculate your top bid because knowing that they're going to put that commission on top of whatever you're paying. So if you don't overspend and break your budget, you always want to do a little math first before you submit bids. To include the buyer's premium, but this ended up going for around $750, about $800, I guess, with the premium. Nice looking box, though. Very, very good China trade example. And it wasn't damaged, which is always nice. And this was in the sale, too. I don't agree that this was an 18th century carving. I think this was more likely probably for maybe just before the first half of the 19th century. But it's a very nice figure. I like the figure a lot. I love wood carvings, as you all know. And this was a nice one. It had a gilded woman in a gilded robe seated in this very nice chair. It's just depicting an upper class Chinese woman of the day. It's not an imperial figure or anything like that, but nicely done. Nicely done all the way around. There's a split in the head here where the wood over the time does often crack. It's a common problem. Happily, it happened on the back and not down the middle of her face, so be glad for that. But she was nice facial expression, charming face. And this went reasonably, 325 plus premium. It had a big estimate, $800 to $1,200. I think that was a little heavy. The people that run the auction house up there, they're not doing it to push the envelope. I know Kaja and the people up there, they're nice people. They put their best guess into what they think it'll bring, and that's their estimate. And it measured 8 3/4 inches tall, so it had nice size to it. So 3 1/4 plus the premium, about $400, all done. Nice thing. And these are coming up in a sale, incidentally. These are a pair of bamboo decorated, reticulated silver Wang Hing and Company candlesticks. And somebody mounted them on these wooden stands. The stands aren't by Wang Hing. They appear to be late 19th century, probably Western, judging by the way the gadrooning is done around the edge. That's not a Chinese technique. So somebody had a pair of stands and they put them up on it. It kind of works though. It looks nice. There's a pair of them. They're estimated at 1,000 to 1,500 Canadian. And remember, the Canadian dollar right now is trading at about was it 65 cents to the US or something like that. So 1,000 Canadian is about $600 US. So they're estimating it basically to be worth somewhere between 600 and 1,000 U.S. currency. The opening bid on it is $360 in U.S. currency. These are very nice, and they're signed on the bottoms. They're signed on the bottoms right there. And Wang Hing, of course, was one of the premier silversmiths of the late Qing dynasty, the mid 19th century onward through the end. But very, very nice. We'll see how they do. Right now, it's got 8 bidders. The sale isn't until July 21st. And all these things will be on the global pages for the Patreon subscribers and for the global subscribers on Bidamount. Hopefully by tomorrow morning, we'll try to get them up really right away. I just came across this morning. And then this is coming up also. If you're a silken robe buyer, you do want to take a look at this. This is down at Heritage in Texas, and it's neat because it's a 19th century shifu robe with a collar. It's got its original collar, and the collars are rarely with them, and it clips around the neck and so forth, and rests on the shoulders, and things like it's nice to see that. The sleeves are full length with no cutting or trimming to them. They have the nice hoof cuffs on the end. The color of the cobalt and all that looks very good. The details are good. The wave pattern at the bottom is good. And overall, this robe looks to be in very good condition. And the estimate is 6,000 to 8,000, $3,000 opening bid, which is very reasonable. I suspect this will bring at least in the mid-range of the estimate and maybe go to 10,000 because the quality is good, the condition is very good, and it's got its original collar. And you don't see the collars very often. Occasionally you'll come across a collar in a box and when we used to clear out estates, we'd find them occasionally the collar or an old robe that's long gone, but they saved the collar in the bottom of a drawer with textiles and things that people would hang on to because often they got repurposed, especially the first half of the 20th century. People would repurpose silks and textiles into things, make handbags out of them and all kinds of crazy stuff. But anyway, this is a good lot. And then hopping along over to this is the Brunk sale that's coming up. And this, I don't know the story. Featuring the Maybelline Legacy. That's the cosmetic company, of course, and Marguerite Williams. I believe Marguerite Williams was the mother of, or the daughter of the Williams that founded Maybelline. I'm not certain about that, but I think that's the story. I'm doing it off the top of my head. But anyway, there's some very nice decorative stuff in this sale. And if you like other things there's some Chinese things there that we're going to talk about too. But if you like other fine decorative art for your house, things that are just very pretty and beautifully done, you want to check this sale out. It's a good looking auction. Just go down. There's a lot of good silver in here, a lot of good ceramics. There's a rose medallion, garden barrel, of course. There's some table objects and whatnot, but there's a couple of lots in here I think are pretty nice, and I'm gonna sort of go through them. One of them is actually this. I meant to open it before, so I'm going to open it now. It's a very nice late 19th century or early Taisho period umbrella stand with this great big yellow shishi on it, and I think this is a nifty umbrella stand. If you want one to put umbrellas in your front hallway, this is a great thing. And it appears to be either late Meiji or early Taisho, so 1890 to 1915, somewhere in there. There's the bottom of it. And like all good umbrella stands, it's got a star crack in the bottom because people drop this. They drop if you buy umbrella stands made of porcelain, always try to put some sort of padding in the bottom and then put some sort of metal liner or something on top of it. Because when people come home, if they've had a bad day and it's raining and they put away their umbrella, they often will drop them in. And the amount of impact on the tip of the steel tip of an umbrella will eventually crack the bottoms of any porcelain object. And people that have experienced this, I've even found umbrella stands with no bottoms at all. They still use it to hold them upright, but the only thing under the umbrella stand is the floor. But in this case, it got a star crack because I can pretty much guarantee you somebody dropped an umbrella in a little too hard, or an ice cane, the old ice canes, the canes that have the steel tips on them for walking in snow and ice, nicked it out. But put something in there and then put some sort of plate or some sort of something down there, a piece of wood even. Cut a piece of round wood and cut it to fit into the bottom, and that way, when people drop their canes in, or umbrellas, they won't wreck your umbrella stand. Anyway, this is a nice thing. It's estimated just $200 to $400. It's 24 inches tall, and it's got great color. It's a cool thing. And then this barrel form China trade 1870s, 1880s export mug, well-known type. Of course, we all recognize that pattern. This was sort of a stock pattern that they used on a lot of Chinese export wares, to varying degrees of quality, of course. But this is a nice one. It's a barrel form, which is kind of a desirable shape. The estimate is very reasonable, $200 to $400, with a $100 opening bid. It's a nice thing. It's a nice piece of China trade. If you're a mug collector, you want to check that out. Now, this isn't Chinese, but I threw this in because I loved it. I love this thing. It's as they call it, a whimsical carved wooden sculpture of grooming monkeys, and it measures about 8 inches tall. And the wood is beautifully done. I don't know where it's from. It could be English, it could be Austrian, it could be German. My first instinct was that it was probably Austrian or German, but that's just my feeling on it. It's from seeing the wood carvings over the years, and but this is a nifty carving. If you like naturalistic stuff, and it was probably done in the late 19th century. There was a huge interest in the late 19th century, and you find a lot of these old collections around Europe and America too, where people had samples of natural things, naturalist collectors, and they would collect unusual roots and rocks and carvings and rusticated forms, or carvings done in interesting pieces of wood like this, displaying nature. There was a fascination with nature, and nature from around the world. And monkeys were a great fascination to Europeans during the 19th century, because they were so interesting, and their appearance relative to how humans look and so forth. And of course, a lot of anthropologists started studying them like crazy then. But this is a nice little carving, and it's completely undisturbed. There's just the bottom of it, but the patina on it is very nicely done. I love the face on the younger monkey as he's getting his fur picked out by, it's either mom or dad. I don't know which, can't tell. But I like this a lot. I just wanted to point that out as a fun thing to always look for things like that. It's estimated at $600 to $900. It's got a $300 starting price. It's got 5 people watching it, and the sale is in a couple of weeks. Give it some thought. It's a nice thing. It's a great thing. Well, great on a mantle and a bookcase. If you have a library in your house, put it in the bookcase. It'll look terrific. It's the right size. All right. And speaking of bookcases, this, I don't know. I threw this in because I don't know how many people have ever seen one of these. And we used to find them all the time in houses in New England. They were very, very popular. Edwardian mahogany revolving bookcases. And these were made in the late 19th century. And you find them often in lawyers' offices, or college professors often have them, because you can store a lot of books in one of these, and it revolves. And if you have limited space in your house, you don't have room for another bookcase, and you're buying Chinese art reference books, this is a great thing, because each one of these they look like drawers, holds books. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each level, right? So you've got slots, 10 slots to put in books. You can put a lot of books in here, and it's a great place to keep your most popular and most commonly used books for handy reference. So you don't have to go somewhere and dig it out. You keep it in the middle of your living room, or your library in your home, or your den, or wherever you go to look things up. And you have this, and they're beautifully made. They're very strong. This one measures a couple of feet tall, probably. 34 inches, so it's almost 3 feet tall. It's good size. That's a good size one. And it was bought in 2002. Yeah, they used to sell for a lot of money. 2002, somebody paid $2,800 for it. And I can attest to that, because we had them in auctions. And these and lawyers, really good quarter-sawn oak lawyers bookcases, those wonderful stacking bookcases that are so useful, because they have glass doors on. They keep the dirt off of everything. Because back in the day, that was a problem, because everybody was burning coal to heat. So there was a lot of soot floating around, and people wanted to protect their books, so they often put them in glazed bookcases that were fairly airtight, and so forth. But this is also a wonderful design, and it's got, let's see, It's got the little wheel feet, and it sits on a ball bearing a rotator at the bottom. These are very nice, and this one is in excellent condition. That's the reason I'm pointing it out. I think there's two in the sale actually, but the estimate is just $400 to $600 with a $200 opening bid. I expect it will go for more than that. I expect this will probably bring 1,000 to 1,500. But if you're looking for a really great little bookcase that's antique, it has a lot of charm. This is it, and of course you can put things on top of it too, and use the shelf space. And the other thing in the sale that caught my eye was this: the Japanese painting of koi fish. Now this is a 20th century painting, probably mid 20th century, but whoever painted it was a really good painter. Always go for the art. Always pay attention to the art. Don't let especially with paintings, don't let the age discourage you. This was done by a very good Japanese painter, koi fish, and they have a list in the on the page of all the different type of fish that are in the painting, which is sort of fun. And this is a big painting. This isn't some small painting. It measures the frame size is 33 by 40 inches, so it's a nice big painting, and the painting size is 28 by 36 inches. So it's a nice size canvas, of course, too. But this is a lovely painting, and the colors are very, very pleasing. The oranges, the tones, and so forth. And you get it in the way that the artist did the water. There's a real sense of looking through the water into the koi as they're below you. And if you've ever been to a nice koi pond, this is what it looks like. I mean, this is incredibly accurate rendering in my mind. I think it's terrific. And you have that nice swirl at the top because when fish go by, if you spent time on the water, you know they swim in circles and they'll swirl the water as they go off, flipping their tails. At any rate, it's only estimated at $800 to $1,200. I suspect this will go for more than that. This is a nice picture. It's already got 26 people watching it, and I suspect it'll probably bring $200 to $3,500 anyway. And if somebody can figure out who this 20th century painter is, it could go for more. But it's a good object. It's genuinely pretty. It's a nice bit of art. Check that out. And this is all in the Brunk sale. And then there's a nice pair of paintings of tea preparation, China trade, 1800, 1810, somewhere in there. Nicely framed, French, a nice gilt fillet on the inside, and beautifully matted, very expensive looking frame on it. The estimate is just $600 to $900 with a $300 starting price. Expected to probably bring in the estimate. But it's a very nice couple of paintings, and the frame sizes of these are pretty good. They are 24 by 28 inches, so these are pretty good size pictures. And then the image size, the painting size, is 13 by it says 107. I think they meant to say by 10. 13 by 10 inches would be more likely dimension. But again, very, very nice quality, beautiful China trade work. And then over at Akaba Gallery is this nice. If you've been looking for one of these, this is a fairly well-known type, sort of a production type of Kangxi vase, if you will, but it's a very popular pattern. And you see the same pattern on plates and chargers and bowls, and they also put it on these jars. And this is a pretty good one. I think the jar is about 13 or 14 inches in height. Looks absolutely fine as Kangxi. Judging by the paste and the tone of the cobalt and everything. There's the bottom of it. It's got a hairline through the bottom that'll help keep the price down. It's estimated, the estimate is a little wide, $200 to $800. Figure it'll, how big is it? Double check the height. 14 and a half inches. Okay, so it's almost 15 inches. It's got a hairline in the bottom. Figure this is probably going to bring $1,100, $1,200, maybe $1,600, somewhere in that price range. If it goes for less than that, it's a very, very good buy. And incidentally, these make terrific table lamps. I know you're all saying, "Oh no, not a table lamp," but you can make table lamps these days without punching holes and things. And this is the absolute perfect size for a vase space for a table lamp in a living room. This is a beautiful size. And it's got very nice color, and pick the right shade and you got something really, really nice to live with. And lamps happily live a long time because they don't get moved a lot. They don't get moved around like objects. Or if you buy it, it's missing its lid, you could use it as a vase, of course. And then the last thing on this list is this very nice Kangxi Amari teapot. It's a nice looking teapot. The decoration looks good. The gilding is mostly intact. There's a tiny bit of rubbing up around the top, but overall it looks pretty good. You want to double check to make sure the handle and the finial haven't been reattached. They don't appear to have been. The finial looks like it hasn't been reset. And the handles on the side here look okay, but you want to verify it because the photograph sometimes can miss it. But this is nice. It's a good Kangxi teapot. So if you're a teapot buyer, you might want to look at that. If you don't have a Kangxi Amari example, they're dating it just as 18th century, but it is Kangxi. It is a Kangxi example, and it's awfully nice. All right. So that sort of covers it for the week. There's a number of sales have happened, and I didn't mean to sidetrack so much on non-antique things, little rants of mine, but I talk about what pops into my head, and I don't have much of a filter sometimes, as you all know. So, at any rate, why filter? It's no fun. Non-filtered speech keeps life interesting. Have a great weekend. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed here yet already on YouTube, please do. Just click the button down there at the bottom, and you'll get a notification when we set the videos up. We do at least one a week. Sometimes we do a couple a week if there's a lot going on in the antique world. And if you haven't joined us yet on Patreon, join us over there. We put content up there intermittently throughout the week, 3, 5 times, 6 times a week sometimes if there's a lot going on. And they have a community board over there, and there's all kinds of stuff going on over there. But anyway, it's fun. And but if you just want to be here, that's fine too. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend. It's going to be cool here this weekend. Right, we had the heat wave like everybody else did, but today it's about 70 degrees, sunny, very dry, which is nice. So we got to get out and water the gardens, I guess. But anyway, here we are. Thanks again, and see you next time. All right, bye-bye.